I guess we're going to talk predominantly around a style which I guess you could say is pushy parenting. It's probably a really easy way of describing it, but parents who really do get involved. What do you think is going on? Is it some form of evolutionary psychology in which parents feel the need to get involved with their child's achievements?
Yeah, there's certainly an evolutionary component to it, especially these days, although this is less so in sport, I suppose, than academics, where, at least in the U.S. and I think around the world in developed countries, this is the first generation where kids are not as well as off as their parents. And it used to be you could just go to you get a trade or go to school and you get a job and you earn a decent living and you have a good life and a family and that's fine. But now the bar's been raised. And, there's been obviously a lot of economic upheaval over the years. And also, if you think about just how parents look at their kids, it used to be that they'd look at their kids within the context of their peer groups. And the peer groups were basically the neighborhoods, the communities, the schools, the sports teams that the kids and the families are involved in. And so they're all fairly similar. But now we've got this thing called the internet. You might have heard of it. And so now parents and kids compare themselves to the world. And that is a losing game because very few kids are going to be the best, the wealthiest, the smartest, the most beautiful, and all those other things that every parent wants their kids to be. However, again, statistically, in all those areas, not even as unlikely, they're not going to happen. And so unfortunately, what happens is that parents see it as a way to, I got to make sure my kid makes it. Otherwise, they're going to be living at home with me the rest of my life. Or they're not going to be successful by our culture's standards and things like that. So they decide, I need to make sure my kid is successful. And, you call pushy parent, helicopter parents, snowplow parents, the big one in the U.S., clearing the path to their success instead of letting the kids clear the path, because that's what ultimately will make them successful as athletes, as people, and also happy. Because if you're given everything, if everything's not a struggle, then it's like, I don't own it. And so having that ability to provide that support that's just the right amount and not care too much, that's the danger.
Yeah, I describe that mechanism you're talking about parents doing too much for their kids and the kids having a lack of autonomy in what they do, whether it's their decision making, their choices, everything that they have in front of them. I describe that like a parent taking their kids to the gym, going in there, grabbing the weights, lifting them, and then expecting their kids to get stronger and going, why are you not putting on muscles? And I just think they're not allowing them to build that strength through having the physical challenge or the mental challenge or the emotional challenge that's put in front of them, because they're clearing that path for them. It's why I talk about having I've got your back mentality rather than I'll show you the way mentality, which is this sort of, if you're a parent that's standing in front of your child and going, right, this is the path we're going to take, you actually should just be behind them saying, I've got your back, off you go. And if you fail or you struggle or you make a mistake, I'm here to catch you, we'll talk through it, but I'm not going to do it for you. And I look back at my own parents, and I think there'll be a lot of me kind of thinking about this throughout this podcast, but my own parents, they were very much like that. It was, right, you've got to go to this training session. Okay, there's the bus timetable, there's the train timetable, grab your kit, get onto it, off you go. And there would be people that go, well, that's sort of harsh on your kid. Like, why are you not just driving him to training? They had their own lives. Like, they had work they were doing to put food on the table, to put a roof over our heads. I wanted this thing. They knew that. They were willing to help me. So their form of love and caring was, right, I'm going to show you the route you need to take. Off you go. Call us if you get into trouble. You should be fine. And that built, more than anything, this drive for me to want to make it. And then now, I talked about this a lot to athletes, is when I'm faced with something challenging, or if I'm faced with something that I believe deep down that I deserve to go after, I look back on moments like that, those experiences, and go, those are kind of receipts that I'm ready to cash in and say, no, I've done some hard work. I'm willing to cash that in. And this is the reason why. And if you ask me why do you think I deserve this? It's because I've done that, I've done this, I've done that, all these experiences where I did it myself. And I think we're ridding kids now of those experiences and that strength that comes with it.
Yeah, agreed completely. And I think you're going to the gym and lifting weights for your kids is one great example. The other is going to the gym with your kids and forcing them to lift their own weights. So they'll get stronger, but they will resent you and they will hate every moment of it. And as soon as they can, they will look for a way to quit, or they will self-sabotage themselves with injury or get into trouble, anything to get away from it, because they're not doing it for themselves. And ultimately, in the end, the kids are going to move on, whether it's to university or high-level club academies or pros or Olympics, and they're going to have a reason to do it. And if their parents aren't, it's like, well, why am I doing it? And they stop doing it. Or they push back against their parents and they rebel against it. And that's where, for example, one of the a big reason why parents send their kids to me is because they're unmotivated. You got to help them find their motivation. But they're missing the point. It's like, find the motivation. You mean they've lost their motivation? Well, is it under the desk? Is it behind the bed? Is it in the other room? We need to find it somewhere. That's not the issue. The issue is their motivation is being suppressed by their parents, because the kids don't have to be motivated, because the parents are giving them all the motivation out of fear, usually out of conditional love. And so, but then it's like, so a lot of my work is helping, first of all, parents to back off and let the kids find their own motivation, because sports are fun. They're cool. They're amazing. So if you give kids the opportunity to find their own reason for competing, they're most likely going to find that reason. And if not, then they'll find something else. They'll take up the cello or do drama or academics or whatever. But ultimately, you want kids to have a passion for it and own it, because that's the fuel. And I with the adult professionals, Olympians I work with, I talk about finding your fuel. What propels you? And ideal rocket fuel, pure rocket fuel. And rocket fuel is passion, love, enjoyment, excitement, pride, inspiration, all these positive emotions. Emotions evolved. You brought up evolutionary psychology, and I'm a total evolutionist in that way. All emotions evolve for a reason, to motivate us to some sort of action. So if you can tap into that 100% pure rocket fuel, you're going to become the best you can be. The problem is that parents in our culture cause kids to be propelled by contaminated fuel. Perfectionism, fear of failure, preoccupation with results, expectations and pressure, pleasing my parents. The problem with that fuel, it works to a point. Because early on when you're a kid, you want to please your parents, or you're afraid of your parents. But after a while, it holds them back, because ultimately they're running away from failure instead of pursuing success.
If you've enjoyed that video, then you might enjoy the full unedited version of the episode. All you got to do is click right here. Go on. Go now. Go. Here.